Thanks for being here today, guys. Happy Veterans Day. Second real class for us in an early signing period here in November, and couldn't be happier with the group of three that we have joining our program. Ellie Dagg from Henning, Minnesota, in my opinion, is one of the best players in the region. I think she's terrific, and I think she's somebody that's already at a high level. And when we get in and get a chance to work with her, I think the sky's the limit for her as a player. She's somebody that was, I think, pretty highly regarded as a young player in 8th grade and coming into a freshman, and then had some unfortunate injury that kept her out of a couple summers. Her summer between freshman and sophomore and sophomore to junior didn't get a chance to play in front of people, and I think got passed up a little bit. And I think one of the things I like most about her is I think she has a chip on her shoulder about that a little bit. And she's pretty ready to show that that's behind her. She had a full high school season this year, a full summer this summer. That's behind her. And we're very, very fortunate to be able to coach her here the next few years. Katie Hildebrandt from Mcfarland, Wisconsin, is somebody who was not on our radar at all until really early in the summer. And I got to give a lot of credit to our coaching staff for not only Ellie, who was a name we heard about but just couldn't see her play when we first got here last year. But those guys were beating the bushes in a time where you can't go out and watch a lot of players and go to an event and just sit on a game and see who you see occasionally. For us to be able to find somebody like Katie, I thought was terrific by our staff. And you start watching film, and there's some highly regarded kids, and then you start watching Katie, and I remember saying to our staff, well, why don't we like this kid as much or better than these other guys with what she's doing out there? She's a 6'2" kid, physical, strong. She just plays at a small high school, has played in a less prominent travel program, but has been allowed to play pretty free and loose, which has really helped develop her perimeter skills. She's a big kid that can really shoot it and really handle it and really pass it. And somebody that's that size, you don't get that a whole bunch. She has some things to improve on in and around the basket, but she's also a terrific kid and has a great work ethic and is a workhorse, and I think she has a really bright future as well. Abby Kubis, just became one of our commits here in the last couple weeks. We'd had Katie and Ellie committed here for several months and have been excited about them. Abby had some other opportunities. We feel really fortunate that she chose to come to NDSU. I think everybody that knows that name knows her family and the paths that they've all had before her, and what the Bison mean to her and her family being from Dickinson. So I think it's a great opportunity for her to come in. She has some things she's going to have to get better at, but we said last year athleticism and toughness and being a competitor, those are things that we needed to improve throughout our team, and I think she brings those things in spades. And it'll be exciting for her to get in and start competing with some high-level athletes, that we have in our program now. And the jump that she's going to make, just being able to compete against those guys every day, I think is going to be prominent.
No, go ahead. You mentioned about Ellie Jory. Can you describe, I guess, the level of play in northwestern Minnesota girls basketball that might get overlooked? And maybe Ellie fell into that, obviously, with her injury as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, you're talking western Minnesota there. There's not, a ton of high-level kids. It just anywhere where you have a sparse population, you're not going to find just numerous high-level Division I kids that you have to go against every day. There's been some, and we all know their names of kids that have been able to go play at some Big Ten schools and even Big 12 schools and some things like that. But, she's played on one of the top AAU programs in the country. She just, because of her injury history, has really limited her opportunity for all the exposure that she was going to get. But it was no secret. You go watch her. I got to watch her play her last high school game before the tournament was canceled here in March, over at the University of Minnesota. And I thought she looked great. And I was like, if we can get her, let's get this kid. And we're fortunate, another 6 weeks later to be able to get that done. But I'm just telling you, she's got a very high ceiling. She's one of the better guards I saw all summer, and I just feel fortunate we were able to get her.
Go ahead.
I know you mentioned those three things that you really wanted to improve upon, athleticism, competitive toughness. What is that kind of the mindset as you try to put your fingerprints on this roster, that those were the three main things that you were going after?
Well, when we got here, there was a lot of things we were going on. We had to improve in a lot of areas. And obviously those things are critical, I think, to being a championship program, but you have to have some base talent as well. All the players that we've brought in since we've been here bring some element of those things, of some more athleticism, a little more toughness and competitiveness that I'm used to, at least as a whole for a group. Our core group, we have 2 seniors, 2 juniors, if you're going by what they are right now. The rest of them are freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores, or redshirt sophomores. So we have a very young group, and I think we really feel like our coaching staff feels like that's the core group that's going to get our program, where we want to go.
When you're out recruiting, I mean, a lot of these teams around here aren't competing against top 25 nationally ranked programs. How much did you kind of run into that while you were out talking to girls and having to maybe pull them away from a South Dakota State?
Yeah, so it's, this entire time, as the other coaches have alluded to, it's been difficult to recruit in a sense that you lose some things just watching on film, watching live streams of games. You don't get to see body language on the bench. You don't get to see how they interact with teammates, coaches, bad calls, all those kind of things that maybe tell you a little bit about the individual. So really you're looking at skill set, things you can't coach. What's the size? What's the speed? What's the athleticism? And then you have to do a deep dive when you do get them on the phone, when you do get them on those Zoom calls and you get to know them. We've spent so many hours looking at a computer screen in the last 6 months just recruiting. It's been different, but there's also been some positives to that. And for me, I've never been a guy that's been into the rankings a whole bunch. I'm really, if you can fit what we do and we like you, I don't even really ask our players who else is recruiting you. If we like you, that's good enough for me and our coaching staff. And we don't concern ourselves with who else, what their number is or whatever. That's just somebody's opinion. We have our own opinion. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. But yeah, I mean, all those things go into it. It was a different time to recruit. But I think we'll all be better for it going forward and even provide some other opportunities when we can go out and see, for communication and getting to know those kids.
Right. When you come into a job and you get it in April and it's kind of a catching up situation with recruiting, do you feel like you're starting to catch up now in terms of trying to get on the same plan to try to recruit kids on the 22s and 23s and all that?
Yeah, I do. Keeping Morgan standing over here was great for us because she just already had a feel for a lot of people in the area and had a base for us to work with. I don't know, Brian. We got probably really lucky last year getting Ryan Cobbins right when we got here, getting Heaven and Marie before the summer was over. I think that was what put us on the path to really getting our roster where we wanted to get it, maybe faster than what we'd hoped. There's every reason if you go back to say, hey, Ryan Commons doesn't take her last visit here and doesn't come here, and Heaven and Marie have all these other opportunities to transfer to and don't come here, we would be still doing a lot of work right now trying to get our roster competitive. So I think, we're very fortunate in the first 6-7 weeks that we were here to get those 3 caliber players on board right away.
Hey, Coach, is there like an overall theme to this group of 3, or if you've had to describe the group as a whole, how would you describe them?
I don't know, Eric, if there is. They're 3 probably different players. I mean, Ellie Daig's a point guard. Katie, I think some recruiting services list her as a small forward, but for me, she's a 4-5 kid. Abby Kubis is a 3-4 style player. Katie has a couple specific skill sets that I think are really high level. Some other things she needs to work on. Ellie Daig is pretty good at everything at the moment and just has a chance to really improve those things and become an elite type player, I think. And then Abby Kubis brings all the intangibles and things you want. She's somebody that's going to have to round out her skill set, really good around the basket, but needs to improve some ball handling and perimeter play. All three of them, I would tell you, are very, very competitive young women. So their mindset for just playing and practicing hard and doing the things that all coaches talk about, but rarely get out of all your players all the time. Those are things we're trying to bring in. When we talk about toughness, to me, that's mental toughness. That's being able to practice hard on days where you don't feel your best. I think those guys are all going to add to that.
Sense like they'll all, or a few of them will be able to contribute immediately, or do you think there'll be more development with one or some of the other?
I think Ellie Dag will contribute immediately. I expect her to be able to play a lot for us right away. I think Katie is going to find a niche early because she does have a specific skill set of being able to shoot it with her size. Plus, she's already a pretty good defender and rebounder. But the being able to stretch the floor at the 5 position, if you choose to play her there, is something that is very hard to guard. You watch it with our men's team when they have Rocky out there picking and popping and stretching the defense. That lets all those other guys do some things. And over the years, we've had some of those players. It'll be nice to add that, arsenal to our team. And then Abby, I think, is going to have to work hard to carve out a role, but she knows that. And I think, her willingness to work and those things that we've talked about with her are going to put her in that position at some point.